Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Young at Heart. This is session number 173. And who's counting? And I'm Father James DeLucio, ready, willing, and able, by the grace of God, to offer you nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, and such, and other things, to keep us all young at heart. Today's selection is a favorite poem of mine, goes all the way back to my childhood. No surprise there. It's particularly poignant for those of us who grew up in the Northern Hemisphere and in these United States, in the Northeast, the Midwest, the Far West, but also some people in those northern southern states as well, when autumn fills the air and the weather is cold and crisp but not too cold, and the deciduous trees just fall aflame with color. This is a poem by James Whitcomb Riley from Illinois, and it's really a farmer's delight in the autumn season. So although our theme this month is Halloween, this seems still appropriate for the time and the season. Maybe you know this poem. It's entitled When the Frost is on the Pumpkin. But really, I didn't pronounce that properly. When the frost is on the pumpkin, to give us some North Midwestern flavor, as many of these words will, and that's part of the fun of the poem. Ready, set. Oh, you notice I didn't shave today. I wanted to give us a little more Midwestern flavor. Don't I look like a Midwesterner now? Actually, it was my day off. I didn't feel like it. When the frost is on the pumpkin and the fodder's in the shock, and you hear the cayuk and gobble of the struttin' turkey cock, and the clackin' of the guineas and the cluckin' of the hens, and the rooster's hallelujah as he tiptoes on the fence. Oh, it's then the times a feller is a feelin' at his best, with the risin' sun to greet him from a night of peaceful rest, as he leaves the house bareheaded and goes out to feed the stock, when the frost is on the pumpkin and the fodder's in the shock. They's something kinda hearty-like about the atmosphere when the heat of summer's over and the coolin' falls is here. Of course we miss the flowers and the blossom on the trees and the mumble of the hummin' birds and buzzin' of the bees. But the air's so appetizin' and the landscape through the haze of a crisp and sunny morning of the early mornin' days is a picture that no painter has the colorin' to mock, when the frost is on the pumpkin and the fodder's in the shock. The husky, rusty rustle of the tussles of the corn and the raspin' of the tangled leaves, as golden as the morn. The stubble in the furries, kinda lonesome like, but still a preachin' sermons to us of the barns they growed to fill, the straw stack in the medder and the reaper in the shed, the hosses in their stalls below, the clover overhead. Oh, it sets my heart a-clickin' like the tickin' of a clock, when the frost is on the pumpkin and the fodder's in the shock. Then your apples all is gathered, and the ones a feller keeps is poured around the cellar floor in red and yellow heaps, and your cider makin's over, and your wimmern folk is through with their mince and apple butter and their sauce and sausage too. I don't know how to tell it, but if such a thing could be as the angels wantin' boardin', and they'd call around on me, I'd want to 'commodate 'em and the whole enduring flock, when the frost is on the punkin and the fodder's in the shock. Did you need some further explanation? Well, I had to look up. I kind of knew what fodder is, animal feed, and shock in this case. And the fodder's in the shock. Weirder. Shock is a group of sheaves of grain. The group, made up of 12 sheaves of grain, are tied and stacked so they support each other. So why would the animal feed be in the midst of the grains stacked up? I think he's referring to that the place where the grains are bound together and stored, that's where the animal feed is. There. And he calls that the shock, as well as what's in it. And when he talks about stubble, what line was that? If I can find it now. Yes. He says, and this was in verse 3, the husky, rusty rustle of the tossels of the corn and the raspin of the tangled leaves as golden as the morn, the stubble in the furries, kind-o' lonesome like, but still a-preachin' sermons to us of the barns they growed to fill. Stubble here refers to cut stalks of grain protruding from the ground after the harvest. Furries may refer to furrow, a long, narrow, shallow trench made in the ground by a plow, a rut or groove or narrow depression, such as snow drifting in furrows. American Heritage Dictionary, I tell you. So, in that sense, the stubble is the grain that's still there left after they've taken the harvest, whether it was the corn stalks or whether it was the stems of wheat after the wheat's removed. And I guess they were stuck in the furrows, those little indentations throughout the land, throughout the arable farmland. And so he refers to them as furries. Well, that makes sense, because he said the stubble is in the furries. So they're in the little indentations that go on and on and on and on and on and on. And so, my friends, we will bring our session to a close. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm getting a little loopy, and I've had nothing to drink. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely evening. If you go out, wear your masks. In the morning, I suggest you shave. Me too. God bless everyone. Bye.